Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Scroll Halters, a show where entrepreneurs, creators, and marketers share their best stories and insight. This show is brought to you by Social Marketing Writing, an agency that helps businesses with their organic and paid social media marketing on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest, and increases the customer lifetime value with email marketing. We handle everything from tech to improve deliverability to email strategy and copy. Today, I'm joined by Liana Link, who's one of the top Facebook ad experts. Hi, Liana. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And so my first question for you is something around Facebook ads. Everybody says that you're the top at Facebook ads. In fact, I did your course on Facebook ads, which helped me get a lot better. It helped me learn a lot of new things. What do you think? What is it that you do that most people don't do that helps you get amazing results for your clients? Is it just that you're doing something specific with ads, or is it because you're helping them with everything, including the funnel and the offer, or has it got something else to do, something else like compliance? Because I know you're a big proponent of compliance.
Yeah. I think in general, there's three things. That's a great question. I think that there's three things. And the first one I want to say, because I just want to be very transparent, is the clients that we bring on, that we work with. I learned this years ago from what Justin Brooks talked about in ad skills is I usually say to clients, we only work with people who have an existing offer that is converting, and you need to bring in somebody to scale it up. And that has been the case for many years now. And so, I'm very flattered that you said, yeah, my reputation is that we get a lot of amazing results for clients, but I do want to give credit to our clients who already have a very good working funnel. And so it's my job then just to, pour gasoline on the fire, just bring more traffic there. But I also wanted to make sure people understood that if you don't have that, then it's just, we would have to have a totally different discussion about what would work for you on ads. But that's one thing that really helps to get amazing results, is to have a very strong funnel, which I know and a really strong back end, which again, I also know about and can handle that for people. Two other things. The second thing is for years and years, I think now it's a bit more trendy to do this, but I really have tried very hard to understand what Facebook is looking for and what moves the needle with Facebook in terms of when you're running ads. I don't say I trust them. Okay. I think like everybody else, I just, you got to go in there with your eyes open, but I've always found it better to work with the system instead of trying to find workarounds, instead of trying to find ways to I don't like how they're doing it this way. I'm just going to do all these crazy things to try and get around what they're doing. So for example, I know that not using Advantage Plus right now is working for people. And I've talked to other media buyers just very recently. It was I'm letting these ride. I'm not touching them. And I'm like, but the future is Advantage Plus. The future is they're going to turn off all of those things. Same thing with Google, right? They're changing too. We need to not be afraid of it and just embrace it where they're going, figure out how to get really good at it now. So again, you will stand out more from the crowd. And then the third thing that I think that I also do in terms of standing out is I'm quite relentless at testing, and I don't give up after a week. It's continuous. And I've been using AI and automation to get even better at that, but I'm testing many, many different things all the time. Now I'm not doing 300 ads a day type of thing, because that also does not work well, at least in my experience. So it is kind of knowing when and where you should test. Again, it depends on the budget. But I am always, or if I don't have the budget to test something, another thing right now, I am always planning the next test, because to me it's just a big experiment. Same thing with Google, is every little adjustment you make to me is just an experiment. So see how that works. What did you learn from it? Okay, then go on to the next thing.
Okay. And how are you doing this? You said you're using a lot of AI and automation. Are you using some sort of the built-in tools that Facebook gives you, or using some other tools?
Yeah. So going back to understanding Meta and also not trusting it, I've had bad experiences with their automated rules. I personally would not recommend it just because I've had it done weird things. So I do love using automated rules to help. They used to be called RevealBot. They changed their name to Birch, but I do use that to help manage the ads at a certain level, and it essentially replaced a human. I used to hire like junior media buyers. Like I had them 7 days a week, 24/7, checking stuff. And what happens is like humans fall asleep and things like that, right? So um now I use rules that I've developed based on the way that I like to optimize ads to do certain things for me so that it's much more reliable than a human doing it. So that's one way that I'm using automation, and I'm not using AI in there. It's just my own brain, my own rules about what I find helpful for every single different campaign. I just program it all in there. The other thing that I've been doing recently, which I personally think is really interesting, is I've been using AI um, to help me analyze the ad results and then come up with tests. Like I want it to be basically like a CRO assistant. So I have the data. I'm actually building this all into like one nice system, so I don't have to do it all manually, but I have the data that comes in every day to a spreadsheet. And then it also has copies of my best performing ads in there, because just looking at data doesn't give it the whole picture, right? I want to make sure that AI has all of the context it needs. And if it needs other copies of ads, I will put it in there so it knows. So it knows the offer, it knows the ads, it sees the results. I also keep a testing log for every single campaign I run. And a testing log is I track like changes that we make, like literally anything that we're testing. If we're testing something on the landing page or the ads, whatever, I put it in there. I have a bunch of stuff that I fill in there in terms of like our hypothesis, how long we're running it for, et cetera. And I give that to the bot as well. So it has a fuller context. Like, for example, we changed out a form on one of the landing pages, and like within 48 hours, the lead cost like doubled or tripled and leads went down. And if I hadn't looked back at the testing log, I wouldn't have thought, that was the problem, because the problem was the form. And then we just reverted back to the old one. I would probably have just been like trying to come up with like all these crazy new ideas for ads and launching them and everything, when all it really was the form. We changed the form back, and like within 48 hours it was like back to normal. So those types of things I find give a lot of context. And so now I have AI will actually tell me, go through all of that, and then it'll actually give me suggestions on what to test next, whether we have to test the offer or the creatives, or even like using different types of bidding. And sometimes like because we as humans, sometimes it's hard for us to see the patterns and everything. Like I was so sure, I was like, no, like I'm going to have to like test CBO and all these other different campaigns. It was like, actually, this is what's working. What you actually need to test is more of this creative, not this over here. And it was right. So that was actually kind of cool.
And this is something you've built in, or you go and do it manually?
Yeah, it's something I built. So right now I do it manually because I have different custom bots using ChatGPT and using Claude and using DeepSeek. And so what I started to do, because I was getting tired of just like as a human carrying information over to these bots. So I started, I like to use N8N. And so I've started to just string it together. So all I have to do is just a few things. I've also used another thing I like to do in terms of testing is I like to create certain variations of the primary text, the ads for the ads. And I like to use, like, sometimes we might change emotion. Sometimes we might change the writing style, right? To reflect, like make them write like in the style of Dan Kennedy, for example. Or there's like different, like sales psychology elements I wanted to write. So I have about like 5 frameworks that I might put it through. I recently just launched that. It's my, I called it Max because I had to give it a name, right? So Max, my AI, basically marketing rewriter. So all I have to do now is I just put a line into a spreadsheet and it picks up on that. It looks up the offer. And then I tell it what it is I want, which framework I wanted to follow. And then it just kicks me out a nice little ClickUp task. It's got all 5 variations in there. and I just go to town, and that saved me so much time because I used to have to like pull everything, uploading, pasting, from bot to bot. So that's been, to me, that's been life changing just because it's freed up so much more of my time.
Yeah, I see that you put a lot of stuff on AI. You really took to it from the beginning, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to visit something else, and you spoke about how before you take on a client, you check with them to make sure their offer is good and working well. How do you do that?
Uh, I ask them
Okay.
first, I like, I ask them. I don't go into huge details about it because I'm not offering your services, for example, where I know you come in and you help optimize the back end and help get their funnels and offers working. I don't want to do both. Like I just, I'd rather stick to the traffic side. But yeah, I do ask them. I have some pretty in-depth conversations with prospects before we actually start working because I do want to make sure that we can get a win for them. And so in some people, right, you may have to go over their sales numbers with them, asking questions like you should know what it costs to get a client or a sale right now before you hire somebody. You should know that. A lot of times people don't when I ask them. So that's another sign to me, like maybe their funnel isn't as good as they think it is. I also want to find out where all the traffic comes from as well. So again, I can help prepare them because all your traffic, I don't know if you found this, but if you're used to selling to only warm organic people, it is a shock when you start running ads to people who don't know you at all. And so I find that you do have to, like adjust, like just adjust people's expectations, you know.
Well, that's something I learned because when you're the same offer you serve to a cold audience might not work when you serve to a warm audience might not work when you suddenly put it in front of a
Mhm.
cold audience.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and are you just running ads on? Do you just run ads on Facebook, or do you also use other platforms like Google?
Also running ads on Google, and LinkedIn as well, but the primary one is still Facebook.
Why is that? Why do you prefer Facebook over others?
I find I just find Facebook, like, despite everything, with and all the issues with compliance and shutdowns and all that other stuff, I still find at the end of the day that Facebook is one of the best platforms finding the people that you want faster. So I do like to start on Facebook because I just think that, at least in my experience, it has, for most audiences, you have a better chance of it working on Facebook first. Google, again, it needs a longer time. And I'm not patient. I don't think my clients are that patient either. So it can be tough, to do that. I've done Pinterest. Honestly, like I like doing Pinterest ads, but it needs so much patience. I've just been finding it really hard to add that into the mixture. Like people just aren't willing to do that. I have done TikTok ads as well. I found that TikTok ads perform similarly to Facebook ads, but um, the creative gets fatigued a lot faster. So you have to have like a really good machine just to keep pumping out creatives to test the stuff in TikTok. And sometimes their compliance stuff is just really weird. Sometimes it's just hard to get approved. Yeah. So in general, it's that. And I just found that I don't want to say like, I just think that you can test a lot more stuff with it right now. They haven't buttoned everything down. And you can mess up a little bit in there too, and it'll still find stuff for you. It'll still kind of work for you. So it's a little bit idiot proof that way, So that's why I like it. And a lot of people are still on it. Now I'm not selling to teenagers and a lot of the younger people who are not on Facebook. So maybe that's why it's still working for me. But the audiences that I'm running all different types of campaigns on they're on Facebook still, and they're active on Facebook.
Okay. Okay. And do you just use a traditional funnel where you're sending people outside Facebook, or do you experiment
Yes.
with like?
Most of the time I'm doing, 99% of the time, I want to use a landing page
Okay.
because I've tried to use instant forms and I'm just so suspicious of it. I don't know what you found, but
Okay.
it's just not been great quality no matter what, like phone call funnels, lead gen funnels. I just, so we'll see. There's a feature that I just became aware of recently. I want to try it out though, where it actually requires the person to confirm via SMS first, I believe, before it'll mark it as like a lead. That I have to kind of look in the details, but that looked very interesting to me, that might be something to test.
Okay. What I find interesting with lead gen forms is what you can do is, what if you have a lead gen form after someone signs up, you can send them to a page directly on Facebook where you get them into your Facebook group.
Hmm.
And that's where you get a lead, and also there into get them into your Facebook group. And another thing,
Yeah.
that's how I use. Another technique I quite like is DM ads, where I think those work very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you-
You know what? I'm going to say it that I think they work really well when you have set up the back end.
Yeah.
So I have done those. Yeah. I have done like conversation starters, and I really like them on Instagram. But yeah, you do need to know how to do the back end, and manage the back end well, like in terms of like literally from the moment they click, right, and get into your inbox in terms of what to do with it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Like sometimes I'll find people, um, maybe because it looks like less amount on, on a Google Doc or something, but sometimes I find people will do these messenger ads, and the stuff that they have going back and forth, it's so long. And I keep telling people, like, you have to realize, just even in Messenger or on your phone, if it's so long, it just like goes right down to the bottom. And most people are not going to scroll back to read it. They'll probably just ignore it. So, keep things short and sweet, and hand it off to a human as soon as you can. I usually just find that helps the most.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think that was very helpful. I think this whole call. Thank you for joining us. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Sure. So if you're going to look for me on social media, you can just look for the Lead Gen Queen, or you can look for Leanna Ling on LinkedIn. I have a number of different sites. So the best way is just to contact me on social media. And yeah, and I'm happy to answer your questions or point you in the right direction, whatever I can do to help.
Okay. Yep. Check out Liana Link's stuff, and I believe you've got a new Facebook ads course coming up soon.
I do, yes, yes.
Good.
I have to keep up. I have to keep changing it because they keep changing the interface. But yes, yes, that, and I recently interviewed Ian Henman for Google Ads. Like we're just covering everything, organic to paid, like anything that's working. We are sharing all of that with everybody in 2025.
Okay, let's go. That sounds great. Yeah, check out Liana Ling and her course and her interviews. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you.